Hey there, quirky people! I am your host, Anna, and today we'll be pitting two of Marvel's strongest characters against each other. Phase 5 introduced us to its first strong villain. But there are two other Superman-like anti-heroes headed our way. They'd first start as villains in the MCU and then turn into heroes. I'm obviously talking about the Golden Boys, Adam Warlock and the Sentry. Adam Warlock is coming in as a temporary villain of Guardians this year. But next year, Thunderbolts will introduce the Sentry as its temporary bad guy. What is it with MCU and evil Supermans, huh? First Ikaris, now these two. It'll be interesting to see when Hyperion arrives. But before that, let's pit these Golden Boys against each other. Robert Reynolds, aka the Sentry, is described as a hero with the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns. His powers in the books came from a secret formula. He used to be a meth addict who broke into an unnamed professor's laboratory. There he got his hands on the Golden Sentry serum created by the professor. And he did exactly what an addict would do in a lab. Well, he obviously consumed the serum. Then his body began to glow and he got numerous powers. So, his origin is sort of like Captain America, who got his abilities from the super soldier serum. But the Sentry also has a flaw that's similar to Moon Knight. Apparently, he has an evil split personality called the Void. And this personality is totally unstoppable as he uses the Sentry's powers only to wreak havoc on the world. Now moving on to Adam Warlock, he was first created by a group of researchers on Earth who called themselves Enclave. They created his first android form and referred to him as him. But then after getting his ass whooped by Thor, him created a regenerative cocoon around himself and was reborn later. Then High Evolutionary got his hands on him's cocoon and began to further his evolution process. Since him was the first of his kind, the High Evolutionary gave him the name Adam, being inspired by Adam and Eve. Then the Soul Gem, or perhaps the Soul Stone, as you would know it from the MCU, was implanted on his head. That made him insanely powerful, and with that power came the title of Warlock. So this is how Adam Warlock got his true origin in the comics. But just like the Sentry, Warlock also has an evil version of himself called the Magus.
Call me Magus.
He is the future version of Adam Warlock, who was created to specifically oppose Thanos. But right now, we're going to look at both the Sentry and Adam's powers separately to see who would emerge victorious with the battle. First there's the Sentry. Consumption of the serum creates a hyper state of consciousness, and in this state, Robert's body extracts his powers directly from the sun. He is called a Superman counterpart, but in reality, he has even more powers than Superman. He obviously has the same superhuman speed, agility, stamina, strength, reflexes, durability, and the ability to fly. But apart from that, his body glows like a Super Saiyan, and his senses also get amplified. He is completely invulnerable and doesn't possess any weakness besides his mind. Once you get rid of the Void, then the Sentry becomes unstoppable. Only someone like Charles Xavier could stop him with his psychic abilities. With the Golden Sentry serum, his body also stops aging. But one of the most interesting abilities is molecular manipulation. He can change the molecular structure of anything and anyone. Theoretically speaking, this ability would allow him to shapeshift, and it would enable him to regenerate his own cells. Sentry learned that he could craft and build various constructs and even make them sentient for a short while. This ability, along with the others, makes him even stronger than MCU's current Prime Eternal, Cersei. Apart from this power, he can teleport and even absorb energy. But another exciting ability of his is photokinesis. It is theorized that the Sentry also has the superhuman ability to generate, control, and emit light, so he could distract his opponents by shining a bright light in their eyes. He can practically turn invisible by deflecting light and radiant emissions. And producing light, heat, and kinetic force further allows him to shoot energy blasts from his hands and eyes. His next interesting ability is biokinesis. Not only is Robert Reynolds able to regenerate his cells, but he can also resurrect himself. So, he is practically unkillable, just like Deadpool.
You...
He hasn't used this ability a lot in the comics, but he does possess it. And then there's his power-sharing ability. Imagine Naruto sharing his chakras to empower others.
Naruto, you're late! Sorry, here!
Calories?
Hey, Choji, you're filling out again!
The Sentry could do exactly that by sharing a portion of his endless strength with others. This way, he could create an entire army of super strong individuals. And among his last two powers are darkness manipulation and psionic abilities. Even though he has a fractured mind, he still possesses psychic powers himself. Those aren't as efficient as Professor X, but they do come in quite handy. Overall, the limit of Sentry's true power is unknown. But for now, let's look at the next huge character, Adam Warlock. Adam's unique biology and physiology grants him quite a few abilities. And with the addition of the Soul Stone on his head, his powers grew tenfold. From a character who was no match to the God of Thunder, he went on to become an android that might just take Thor down in a long-drawn battle. Maybe he won't be as strong as the comics in the MCU, since he doesn't have an Infinity Stone on his forehead. But we'll get to that in a moment. In the comics, Warlock just has a plethora of abilities. He has a genius-level intellect, which was enhanced by the Soul Stone. He possesses a symbiotic bond with the Soul Gem, and he was always in control of it. His physiology gives him the combo of powers that every super being possesses, as he has superhuman strength, durability, and stamina. He can't just fight for longer periods of time, but he can also sustain a strong hit. But it would actually be tough to land an attack on him because he also possesses superhuman agility and reflexes. So when his opponents go in on offense, they always end up being hit with a massive counterattack. And even when he gets hit, his cellular regeneration takes over in order to allow him a quick recovery. He also has the ability to fly. Along with that, Warlock possesses telepathy, but the exact level of his telepathic capability is unknown. But the one good thing about him is that he can resist other telepaths. One of his craziest abilities is his clairvoyance, as he is capable of seeing through time. And then comes his energy manipulation, which allows him to create energy constructs, manipulate matter, fire cosmic blasts, and even generate intense thermal energy. He can also perform quantum magic and is capable of spell casting. His android body allows him to be a master hacker. And then there are general abilities, as he is a skilled hand-to-hand combatant and master tactician. To go along with these powers and abilities, Warlock also has a few weaknesses. His inner darkness led to the creation of his evil self,
Magus.
But since we may not get to see Magus in the MCU, I won't elaborate on this bit. Apart from this, Warlock has shown vulnerability towards magic. But really, Adam Warlock is one of the strongest characters, if not the strongest of all. Now coming to the big battle, that is, Adam Warlock versus the Sentry. Since you've already waited a lot for the verdict, I declare the results right here. The Sentry fans would be happy because he would totally win a battle against Adam. At least when you talk about the MCU. We can be sure that both these characters will be nerfed a bit, but still, they'll have access to godlike abilities. And with those powers, the Sentry might prove to be superior when it comes to raw strength, intelligence, and speed. Adam Warlock is practically a baby, so he could be manipulated with ease. And he doesn't even have an Infinity Stone here. So it will be a long battle, but the Sentry would take the bout for sure. However, when you talk about the comics, the battle would even out slightly. The Sentry has some reality-breaking powers at his disposal that Adam Warlock simply can't counter. But Warlock has the one thing that the Sentry doesn't, which is an Infinity Stone. He could use the Soul Stone to torment the Sentry, who is already troubled with a split personality disorder. But that might be the only way Warlock could win. Even when we talk about the evil personas of both these characters, the Void would emerge victorious against Magus because of the raw power that he possesses. Okay, that's all for now. Are you satisfied with the result of this battle, or do you think Adam Warlock would win? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons. Goodbye, and I'll see you in the next one.